mean, I thought it was a pretty well played game. We came out and struck fast, and that's what we wanted to do right there. I thought Cliff did a great job of reading the safety right there and throwing a strike downfield, and the guys continued to play at a fast-paced tempo there in the first half. Now, we didn't finish extremely strong. That fourth quarter kind of aggravates me a little bit, but we got a lot of people in the game, and a lot of people got their first few reps of college football, I guess you can say.
Do you have any update on Tristan Jurgens?
No, I hadn't seen him today. It's an ankle sprain, so we'll see how he responds. I know he got treatment yesterday, and we'll see what he can or can't do this week.
What about Micah?
Kind of same thing. I know he's going to see the doctors, I think, today at some point, and they'll let us know what he can start doing.
With it not being an elite game, are you going to be more cautious?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, if they're cleared to play, they're going to be cleared to play. If they're not, they're not. But this is a really good opponent we're facing, and we still got a lot to learn about ourselves. So this would be a great opportunity for us to go out there and play a really good football team in a hostile new environment. I'm pretty sure nobody on our roster has been to Utah, so we'll see how that is.
The last 2 weeks, is this kind of what you guys envisioned out of Clifton McDowell?
Yeah, once again, I think for the third game, he's had a career day. He was 71% completion. Again, well over 300 total yards. So, I think the guy keeps getting better and better. He's getting more comfortable in our offense, and this is exactly what we were hoping to get out of him. He's got a big arm, and he can hurt you with his legs.
Well, we're seeing him sit back and throw the ball more
rather
than running. Is that kind of what you guys want?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he threw the ball great Saturday night. I mean, he's got a few throws where he's released the ball and the receiver's not even out of their break yet. A few other times he's getting kind of hit as he's releasing it and still threw a strike. So I thought he did a really good job delivering the football Saturday night.
Is it rhythm or confidence or both?
I think both. Him and those receivers have spent a lot of time after practice on their own, which is very encouraging. But they're starting to kind of gel. They're on the same page, and he knows where they're coming out of their breaks, and they kind of know where he's throwing the football. So, I would expect that group continue to get better every game.
Obviously, McDowell's a part of this, but the balance that you guys have kind of found over the last couple of weeks. I mean, I'm reading some of this, and on first downs, 44 rushing first downs, 39 passing first downs, rushing and passing stats almost identical to each other at this part of the season. Last year, you obviously had to rely a little bit more on the run game.
Yeah.
This year,
we didn't have a passing attack last year.
This year, it feels like it's a little more balanced. How is that to see where your team's at right now, and that you have the ability to rely on both sides of that whenever you need to?
Yeah, well, I mean, it just helps you keep your opponent off balance, right? So we're about exactly how we want to be as far as the numbers about run pass, and there'll be some weeks where we'll have to rely on the passing game a lot more. Based on what we're seeing out of our opponent, and then vice versa. So, pretty pleased with our production at this point. We played some good ball. We haven't put together a complete full 4 quarters yet. But I think we're moving in the right direction. And if we continue to get better, one game at a time, I like the direction we're headed. And you definitely want to peak late in the season rather than the beginning of the season. And right now, I think we're trending in the right direction.
How do you think the linebackers played filling in for Dave?
I think good. I think you could definitely tell it was Peyton's second start, not his first. He was a little bit more confident and calm. He got the wind knocked out of him right there, which scared us all to death because there's another linebacker we're worried about getting injured. But he was fine. He graded out very well, played a really good game. And Jalen Jackson, we moved Jalen Jackson to linebacker, and never thought he'd play that much, after we moved in that spot just a couple weeks ago. But he's a 6-year senior, he's played a lot of football. I thought he did really good as well. And then Jordan Toston actually graded out very well. So, we're very confident in that linebacker room right there. It's just we've lost some key players, but it's part of the game. Next man's got to rise.
Kind of continuing on that, what's been the main philosophy from the staff and the players? Obviously, you're the healthiest that you are at the beginning of the season. What's been the main focus on getting these guys prepared that are stepping in with when injuries happen? You guys been able to do that?
Well, just continue talking to these guys. It's part of the game. Every player wants to be the starter, right? And that's what you're dealing with coming out of camp, trying to talk to some of these guys about, hey, you're not the starter yet. It might happen, it might not. Stay positive, keep working hard, be into the game plan. And a lot of these guys have done a phenomenal job, preparing themselves like they are the starter. I'll tell you another guy who's been doing that for the last several weeks, is Jordan Allen. And then he gets in and has a big sack, So, I think the guys overall have been doing a great job with that, knowing that, hey, only 11 can start at one time on each side of the ball, and you're a play away from possibly being the next starter.
The big plays. That's kind of the offense you wanted to bring when you got here.
Yeah.
How important is that, and how much has it opened up what your playbook now is?
Yeah, I mean, you want to be explosive, right? We want 7+ explosives every game. When you don't have that, teams are able to kind of, crank down on you and load the box. And we're getting a little bit of that anyway because of, Cliff. But as long as he keeps throwing strikes downfield and those receivers make plays, they got to kind of pick their poison here or there. But no, we definitely want to be an explosive offense. And, I'd love in a perfect world to have 4 fast scores and then have 4 really long drives. That'd be a perfect scenario, right? But sometimes you have more explosives than the long drives, and sometimes you have more long drives than explosives.
You talk about the explosive plays, but last year a big emphasis. You said we got to get better at finishing drives. In the red zone this year, you're above 90% on converting in the red zone for points. Just how big of a difference has that been this year for your team to be able to run? Obviously, having Clifton to be able to run inside the 20 is
yeah. I mean, I think having the right trigger man is a big part of that. Because the field's shrunk down there, your decision making is so much faster down there. And I think Cliff's a big part of that. Now, obviously, I think our offensive line's been doing a good job, and our receivers been making plays, but. It starts with the trigger man, so I think that's why we're doing a little bit better in the red zone.
Was that your best 3 quarters of football since you've been here, you think? Most complete?
It probably was. It probably was most complete, yeah.
Following up an earlier comment by Jim regarding the offense, the air raid, everybody in fandom, if you will, thinks, okay, air raid means one thing, air balls, But your pass at Valdosta had a lot of running production. Yeah. And this is starting to look like that, like your earlier comment. This is everybody wants balance, but the air raid in your world, in your book, is not just airing it out on every play.
No, I mean we Valdosta, we're the second team in NCAA history to have 3 backs that rush for 1,000 yards. I think early on as a coordinator, hey, I wanted 500 yards pass, and I didn't care if we rushed for 20 yards. But that's how I was kind of raised in this offense. When I was a player, that's all we did. We had 2 run plays in the entire offense. But I think as you become a head coach, you start to understand, hey, you got to help that other side of the ball out a little bit too. And it's not just as easy as say, hey, we're going to score a bunch of points. Y'all over there do your job. I started looking into the run schemes a little bit more, and then I had a chance to go work at Princeton for a head coach who ran the spread option. And so it's evolved, but I think almost every air raid guy now, it's not the early 2000s or 90s. Look at Lincoln Riley. They're not dropping back throwing the ball 70 times a game. Everybody's utilizing the tight end. There's quick passing game still. There's still the air raid concepts, especially the passing tree. But there's also a lot involved with the run game. And Mike Leach was probably the last one on the frontier right there that could drop back and throw it 70 times a game and still be very successful and not care about anything else. But no, I think it's good to have some balance. I think it's good to be able to run the football effectively to help your defense. Also take some of that strain and pressure off your offensive line in the passing game. And I think it's good to have a very good passing attack as well. I think it's good to have your opponents kind of guessing what you can do here.
You mentioned earlier about the right trigger man. We talk a lot about quarterbacks, and this success of the team is driven by a lot of his McDowell, his progress. Go into, if you don't mind, some in depth in regards to you mentioned rhythm and confidence. Here's a guy that is an older quarterback that has transferred a lot, has he not, almost every year.
Yeah.
So he's made comments about the offense is still new, but he should be used to new offenses because every time he goes somewhere, it's new offense. But the importance of, and he goes through 4 weeks, 5 weeks of camp, but he's still not in rhythm. But explain the importance of those actual games.
Well, there's a different style of offenses, right? I know in some offenses in the past that he's played in, it hadn't been progression. It's, hey, you throw the ball to him, but if he's covered, just take off and run. We are a progression offense. We do have 5 reads on almost every pass play. And I think he sees the field very well. I think he's become very comfortable with the offense, and what I mean by that is he might have three reads over here to the left, and the picture's wrong, and in the back of his head, he knows his running back's supposed to be right here. So and that does take a little bit of time. It is a different offense, without a doubt, than what he's been in. But I think him getting comfortable with the players around him also gives him confidence and gives him rhythm. Right? He was pretty calm in the pocket Saturday night. Beginning of the season, there was a few times where he'd get out of the pocket too early. Hey man, just hitch up in the pocket right here, deliver the football. So I think that's getting him. He's getting comfortable with his surroundings, with his teammates, and trusting the offense line and receivers altogether. But I think he is a veteran. And what I mean by that, when he watches film with me and Coach Noogie, he sees things that it takes a guy that's been playing college football for 2 or 3 years to really see. And he'll ask the right questions. Well, Coach, right here, that backside safety, it looks like he's eye number 3 over here. He is. He's playing 4 steals, what we call that. And if that happens, you got to recognize that pre-snap, and here's where you need to go with the football, or here's the audible you need to make. And he's been really good. You can tell he's been coached well at other places because he's very confident in making his checks.
And as a former receiver, can you delve into a little bit of this quarterback-receiver trust?
Yeah,
from the quarterback to receiver.
Absolutely.
How does it manifest itself?
Well, I mean, they got to rep, and it's hard to get all that done in just the summer. I think 6 was well ahead of the curve. If they're going through spring ball, then summer, going into camp, and it's taken Cliff. A lot of these extra. They have stayed for the last 2 weeks after practice throwing with each other for at least an hour. But as a receiver, you like to know when I'm coming out of this break, I can expect the ball right here and not behind me. Or I know when I stick my toe on the ground and I come out of this break on a post, the ball's already going to be in the air. I'm not going to look back and see the ball coming out of the quarterback's hand. So I think that is very, very important for both sides, as a quarterback and as a receiver, that rapport being built and that relationship out there on the field.
Unlike the last few years, are you seeing where the receivers are helping him by giving him a target and getting separation, getting open?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think J. Mike's getting more experienced and more confident every game. Jesse's starting to mesh very well with him. But I tell you, he's pretty good on some of that stuff himself. I mean, even last week he came in and said, "Coach, I'd like to push this route 2 more steps, and here's why." And he was exactly right on it. It was a spacing of the field into the boundary, and we changed that the next day for him. And that was one of the big completions he made to Jesse Campbell in the game, where he threw the ball. Ball came out of his hand before Jesse ever got out of his break. So I think he's helping those receivers a lot.
What do you know about Weber State, and what have you learned because they played 2 Southland teams the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, they're a solid football team. They really are. They're very well coached. They're big. They're young. They're sophomore and junior heavy. They don't have. I think they got 7 seniors. But they're very disciplined on defense. They don't make a whole lot of mistakes. And they got a defensive end that leads the nation in sacks and TFLs. Yeah, every week, right? Every week we got a defensive end like this we're seeing. So he's a dynamic player. He was at Fresno State last year. Prior to that, he played at Idaho. So we got to know where he's at. I think their linebackers are big, physical, solid players. So they're solid on both sides. They're big and strong. They're a physical team. This is like a playoff game. I mean, this is the type of team you expect to play if you make it to the playoffs. Flying across the country and playing in a hostile environment. So I'm excited about it. I know that. Lamar beat them. They had a chance at the end to kick a field goal. They got stopped on 4th and 1 at the goal line, I believe. And then last week they played Northwestern. And obviously Northwestern's had a lot of changes and everything. So, I think probably one of their better games is when they played Portland State. They kind of handled them pretty easily, and they've actually played pretty good against Washington. They had a solid game plan against Washington. So this is going to be a great opponent for us, and we're going to have to play a very good football game.
Obviously, the Big Sky is, if not the Missouri Valley, the Big Sky is the premier conference.
Yeah.
In it, so they're going to be prepared. When you talk about that, beating these teams for the league, what does that mean?
Well, I think it just brings some attention to the Southland Conference as being a really good football conference. I think by us adding Stephen F. to this conference just made the Southland that much stronger. And Obviously Lamar's win over them meant something to the conference. So these are big games for our conference too. We're trying to get more than just one team in the playoffs. We got to, as a conference, win some of these games so we kind of get some of that recognition.
Coach, secondary wise, obviously Boogsy gets talked about, Levi, even Youssef. But one of the guys that's really been a big deal for your team this year has been Thomas Miles.
Yeah.
And I don't think he gets talked about, honestly, enough for how good he's been as a senior this year.
Yeah.
Just kind of touch on how his game's been. Obviously, the Stephen F. Austin game, he played really well and had an interception. But he's been a big part of your secondary and the ability to cause problems.
Yeah, what a phenomenal young man and player. I mean, nobody notices him because he never talks at all himself. He's a quiet guy, but a really good football player. He's physical. He never makes mistakes. He knows his assignments. He's that guy that you love coaching and you want to pull for. You know the story a year ago. He was, the other one that got a scholarship. That earned it. He was a walk-on and. Actually, every game he's played for us, he's played a really good football game. So he's Mr. Steady back there. He's cool, calm, and collect, and makes the right calls, gets our guys in position. So I love the young man. I wish I had 100 exactly like him because it'd make our jobs real easy. That's for sure.
What about the difference this year with Boogsy, as far as what you've seen, as far as the leadership role, but also making plays? He missed the last 3-4 games last year.
Yeah, I think Coach Brown's done a phenomenal job mentoring him. I've mentioned early on that Booksy he's a talent. He's a killer back there. All he wants to do is see ball and destroy ball. I think Josh has done a great job of harnessing that, and making him understand. There is this thing called play action pass where they're going to show you the ball and you want to kill it and somebody's going over top of you. But Booksy is a solid football player. He is so aggressive and he cares about his team so much. And I think Josh has put him in the right position to make plays, and I think that's helped him tremendously. We're not asking that position to do some things we were a year ago, which is taking a little bit of pressure off that position. But Booksy and T Miles back there together, they've knock on wood right now. They've done a great job of making the correct calls to motions and shifts by the offenses.
Is that part of what you talked about, which was when you get more talent, you can simplify?
Yeah, I mean, I always think simpler, is better. You want the guys to go out there and play fast, and not sit there and have to, think a whole lot as that ball is being snapped. But no, I mean, Booksy, I think, was a great player last year. I think he's just gotten better, and I think we've done a better job of putting him in the right situations.
What about the pass rush? Completely different pass rush from a year ago. You got 9 sacks.
Well, we have one. We have a pass rush right now, right? Yeah, no, I mean, there's a reason why we went out there and recruited, Marcus White and A.J. Thomas and Jordan Allen. We needed to be better at that position. We didn't get a whole lot of pressure on the quarterback last year, and on any offense, if the quarterback's got all day, they're going to find somebody open, and that in return puts a lot more stress on your secondary. So, yeah, I think our defensive line and those outside linebackers have done a lot better job this year.
Coach, I doubt very seriously you've ever had 4 straight road games. I can't remember ever seeing a schedule like this. How do you coach?
6 weeks. Well, I think we're back home in 6 weeks, right?
Yeah. How do you coach? How do you prepare? Do you ignore it, or you just handle it?
No, I don't think you can ignore it, and we have not talked about it at all. We will today. Yeah, right. I think you just got to embrace it. It is what it is. We can be salty about it or fuss about it all we want. It's not going to change, right? It's just the schedule we were dealt with because we have a new team that joined the conference late. So it is what it is. But we got to embrace it. So I'm going to talk to the guys today about this road warrior mentality, and there's a very good chance that sometimes if you do make the playoffs, you have to start out on the road 2 or 3 times, and you might not ever make it back home in the playoffs, right? So we got to kind of embrace this and understand that go there, kind of feed off the environment, take it in as an experience. It's still about playing football between the lines, and I'm sure here in about 3 weeks after being on the road, we might kind of sit here and look like we're a little bit tired, but that's okay. We got to be excited about playing this game. It's the only game we got this week, and we got to embrace us being on the road. And I don't think anybody on our roster has ever been to Utah, so it'd be exciting to go check it out.
You talked a couple times about it being a playoff-like atmosphere and game and trip. Are you going to use it that way because this is a group of guys that haven't seen the playoffs?
Well, I'm going to tell them we're playing a playoff team, in my opinion. There's no doubt about that. And they're definitely somebody that could be hosting a playoff game. Our conference has matched up with some Big Sky schools in the past, and I'm not telling this to get them uptight or nervous or intimidated by no means, but let's go. Let's have a great week of practice. Let's go play extremely hard. Know what we're getting into. And if we have any goals for getting into the playoffs anytime soon, these are the type of games you got to go and perform well in.
Are there any adjustments that you're making after taking big trips like this over the past couple of years? Are there anything that you want to apply kind of towards these trips?
No, I mean, hey, I checked last week. Well, I think we're 16 feet above sea level over there. They're 4,600. So I don't know that if there's going to be a huge difference. I mean, we are very in shape. We're a great in shape team right now. But the elevation is something that we'll talk about. We're going to have to hydrate just like we're playing in 100-degree weather. Our ATs will do a great job this week, making sure our guys are drinking enough fluids and eating the right way. But I'm sure there's some challenges in it just because of the different type of climate. But still, it's something you're going to have to do anyway, right? So we're just going to have to kind of embrace that as well and make sure we prepare the right way and be ready to play ball.
Looking forward to seeing your punter punt.
No, I am not looking forward to seeing my punter punt. I don't like talking to my punter, but that may be good. Good, do it pregame. That'll be cool. I don't want to see it during the game, but nah. Hey, Finn's a lot of fun. He is having a great season, that's for sure. And he's a weapon. He can flip the field, but they got a really good punter too. And their 4 games we have, their opponents are backed up not 1 or 2 times, but many times. So that'll be a good chess match right there.
You mentioned a couple times that it's not concerning about you being above 500 and what it means. But what does it mean for the program?
About being
over
above
500.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, the kids want to win every game on our schedule. We all do, right? But it's just not something we focus on, and I mean that. We just focus one game at a time, 1 week at a time, and I tell them, hey, we'll look up at the end of the season and we'll figure out where we're at, But I don't want them focusing on what ifs or, oh my gosh, if we win this week and then the next week we got this, it's just not a good recipe. These guys got a lot of different things they think about, and sometimes football is the last one. So we try to make it, chop it up and just focus on one day at a time, 1 week at a time, one game at a time.